Hi guys, good morning. So hope you're all up bright and early, ready to work. And today we're going to be looking at Abraham. Now, you will remember that we're learning about Judaism, the Jewish faith, and we're currently getting to grips with the things that the Jews actually believe, what they believe and how it shapes their life. Last week you did some amazing notes for me on the Mosaic Covenant, which was the agreement or the covenant with Moses. And you'll remember that the Mosaic Covenant is also called the Covenant at Sinai because he went up Mount Sinai. It's also called the Torah. It's also called the 613 mitzvot. And the 10 Commandments are part of it. And all of those words can be used to describe the rules that God gave to Moses on Mount Sinai that the Jews still follow today. But today what we're going to do is we're going to go back about 1,000 years earlier, and we're going to look at the first agreement that God really made with the Jewish people. And he made this agreement with Abraham. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and hopefully we will be able to open up the PowerPoint. And here we go. Okay, sorry, that took a few moments. So the covenant with Abraham, it's about 1,000 years before Moses. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to learn about the agreement that was made between God and Abraham. You're going to read it in Genesis and make some bullet points and some notes on it. And then we're going to look at how important it is and how it affects their life today. And you are going to be making notes on all of that. So just like you did those beautiful notes for me last week on the Mosaic Covenant, you're going to be doing the same for Abraham this week as well. Okay, so 1,000 years before Moses was born, God appears to a guy called Abram and told him to take his wife, who was called Sarai, and his possessions and family and move to the promised land, okay, which at the time was called Canaan, but today is called Israel. Now, he told him that he was going to give him a son. He said that I'm going to give you a son, and through that son, you will have so many descendants that they will be as numerous as the stars in the sky. Now, Abraham didn't believe that Sarai could have a son because she was infertile and they were very old by this time. So Sarai says to him, well, I'll tell you what, why don't you go and sleep with my maidservant and she will have a son for you. So Abraham sleeps with Hagar, and Hagar has a baby, and that baby is a boy, and they call the boy Ishmael. So they get up and they take all their things and they move to this promised land, and they're there with Ishmael, who's about 13 years old. And then God appears to Abraham again, and you're going to read the rest of the story in Genesis 17. Okay, so you probably won't have a Bible at home. So what you need to do is you need to go onto the internet, okay, and you need to find www.biblegateway.com, and here it comes up, okay, and in here where it says enter passage, you put Genesis 17 verses 1 to 12, and in this bit here, okay, it has to say either the New Living Translation NLT, or you can have the New International Version, NIV, okay? But what you don't want, make sure it doesn't say like King James or anything like that, because that's the really old-fashioned English, which is really difficult for any of us, not just you, but for any of us to understand. So you want the nice English one, press search, that will then come up, and I want you to read through it and make about 10 bullet points, please, for me. On that. So see if I can get back to my PowerPoint now. Here we go. Okay, so back the way through. So Genesis 17, 1 to 12, summarize the content into bullet points. I want you to pause me now, okay, and then do that for me. Pause, go. Okay, hopefully you've done that. You've paused, you've done the bullet points, and now you can compare them against my bullet points. So my bullet points are here. And when Abraham was 99 years old, God appeared to him. God said, be faithful to me and I will make a covenant with you. God said, this is the covenant. You'll be the father of many nations. You will change your name to Abraham. I will give you Canaan, the promised land. I will be your God and the God of your descendants. God told Abraham that the sign of this covenant, the sign that these people belong to God, would be circumcision. Every male must be circumcised at 8 days old. Now, I'm not really sure if you know what circumcision is, okay? But let me tell you, it's not very pleasant. And it's basically when the foreskin is removed from the penis. Yes, I did just say penis in an RE lesson. And I did just say foreskin. Okay, now some of you, boys, you may be circumcised for medical reasons. My son was circumcised for medical reasons. Okay, and he went into a lovely NHS hospital and he was fast asleep and they did it and he got home and he took a few days to heal and everything was fine. But there weren't any NHS hospitals then. Okay, there weren't. So Abraham was circumcising his son, Ishmael, who was 13 at that time, and any other baby boy that was born, he was circumcising them with a flint, a stone. Okay, so not a very nice thing to happen, but God told Abraham to do it, and so he did it to all the males in the community. Then a few years later, Sarai, now called Sarah, she gets pregnant and she gives birth to a son, and they call him Isaac. So Abraham now has two sons. He has Ishmael, born to the maidservant Hagar, and he has Isaac, who is born to his wife Sarah. Now, which of those sons do you think is the one that God promised him, and what are your reasons? So in the classroom, we would have discussed this in pairs. So now I want you to pause me again and think about the answer to that question. Which do you think is the son that God promised, and why? Why do you think that? Okay, pause. Okay, welcome back. Hopefully you have been able to write down the answer that you have thought about. Okay, now let's have a little talk about circumcision. So both Ishmael and Isaac were circumcised, but Isaac went on and had a son called Jacob, who later on in his life changed his name to Israel because God told him to. And so the Jews believed that Jacob, as the legitimate son of Abraham, so the baby that was born between Abraham and his wife, carries the promise that God gave to Abraham. So therefore, the promised land, which is now called Israel because Jacob changed his name to Israel, should now belong to the Jews. And the story of Jacob is that he had 12 sons. I don't know if you remember that one. And one of them was called Joseph, and he was sold into slavery in Egypt, and he had the multicolored coat. Okay, so you've got this family tree of Abraham, okay, and then Ishmael and Isaac under Abraham, and Isaac's son, who was Jacob, and then the 12 tribes of Israel under him. And then on the other side, you've got Ishmael, Abraham's other son, who then also had children. And Ishmael went on to become the father of the Arab nation, who are now called Muslims. And they believe that the promise that Abraham was given means that they should also inherit the promised land. And surprisingly enough, that has gone on through the years. And it's one of the reasons that the Jews and Muslims are still at war over the occupation of Israel right now. So in particular, in Jerusalem, there is a war in Jerusalem, and it's between Muslims and Jews. And they both believe that they are entitled to occupy that promised land. So one of the things I want you to do as a bit of a homework task is I want you to research the religious and political history of Jerusalem. Okay, so why are there Jews there? Why are there Muslims there? what's the war about today? Why can't they share it? At the end of World War II, as a reparation to the Jews for the Holocaust, because so many Jews had died, the United Nations set up the state of Israel and sent the Jews said to the Jews, you can all go back and live in Israel. And they went back to Israel, which by this time was occupied by Muslims. Muslims didn't want them there, and wars begin. And I want you to understand a little bit about that and how that happened. But it all comes back to that promise that God gave Abraham. You see, don't ever you tell me that the Bible is not relevant today, because here we have two groups of people having a war. I mean, it's not a good thing. So I'm not saying, yay, the Bible's relevant today in this case. I'm saying this is how important it is to people and their faith, because a promise given in the Bible means that people are still arguing and at war with each other about land today, which is not a good thing, but it is relevant. Okay, so the Abrahamic Covenant, how important is it for Jews today? Well, it's very important, because it is the sole reason, the only reason, that baby boys are circumcised at 8 days old. And then they enter the covenant of Abraham, making them true Jews. This ceremony is called Brit Milah, and there is a corresponding ceremony for baby girls called Brit Bat. Now, obviously, there's no circumcision for girls. There is a female type of circumcision, but it is illegal the world over. It's called female genital mutilation. That's what it's called, FGM, female genital mutilation. And I won't go into the details of what it is here. If we were in the classroom, I would be able to explain it to you, but just know that it is illegal. So that type of circumcision on baby girls is illegal, because it mutilates their genitals. But what about the boys? Do you think cutting off the foreskin without the boy's permission is a good thing? Or do you think that shouldn't be done either? So I want you to think about this. Is it right for Jews to circumcise their baby boys at 8 days old? And what are the opinions? What are your reasons for your opinion? Do you think that's okay? I mean, would you have a baby's ears pierced? Maybe you would. Would you cut any part of a baby off, part of their body? Would you cut it off without their permission, unless there were like real medical reasons? Don't think you would. Is the foreskin any different? Those are the questions that are being asked. And some Jews, some really reformed Jews, some liberal Jews are beginning to object to the tradition of circumcision. And they're supported by human rights activists. So there's a human right that says that you have the right not to have pain inflicted on you, not to be tortured. And so some people are now saying that circumcision is painful. And of course it is, because, these baby boys don't go to a hospital and have it done while they're asleep, like my son did. It happens in the home or in the synagogue. There's a special Jewish rabbi that comes along called Mullah, and he comes and he performs the circumcision. And there has to be people there to witness it, and the parents have to say the vows of belonging to the Abrahamic Covenant on the baby's behalf. Now, some reform Jews are saying this is not good now, that this shouldn't be happening, and that it's a breach of human rights. And so some very, very liberal Jews have developed a welcoming ceremony that they call the Brit Shalom, which is the covenant of peace, where the child is claimed as an heir to the Abrahamic Covenant, but they don't actually circumcise him. And this shows that the covenant is really important, even to Reform Jews. And even though they don't want to circumcise and mutilate their baby, there is also, they still want their child to be Jewish. And there's also a corresponding ceremony for baby girls called Brit Shaim, which is the covenant of life. Now, this could be the answer, couldn't it? This could be the answer. If you're Jewish, but you also understand that circumcision is going to hurt your baby and you don't really want to do that, You could think, oh, well, we'll just have the Brit Shalom, the covenant of peace. And then when my child is old enough, they'll be able to decide for themselves. And if they want to have their circumcision, then that's fine. They can be circumcised. But it's not as easy as that, though, because if a male wants a circumcision for religious purposes, the NHS aren't going to do that. Okay. You can't go to a doctor and say, I need a circumcision for religious purposes. Can you book me into a hospital? They're going to be like, no, we don't do medical procedures for religious purposes. If you don't have a medical reason for needing it, then we can't help. Also, the vows that the baby has made on his behalf by the parents, they have to be said by the man himself. So he has to be awake. And there's still that public part of it, because it needs to be witnessed by others. So it's the home or the synagogue with other people present. So if you're a man whose parents didn't circumcise you as a baby, you have got a massive traumatic event to go through. Circumcision, no anaesthetic, wide awake, speaking the vows in front of witnesses. Wow, that would show commitment, wouldn't it, to your faith? So not having a baby boy circumcised can cause an even more traumatic event later on. But some countries have banned circumcision of babies. So Germany, for instance, has banned religious circumcision for baby boys. So if you're a Muslim or a Jew, you would normally be circumcised. If you live in Germany, you can't. You cannot be circumcised as a baby. So this covenant is so important that it has knock-on effects if it's not done at the time when it's meant to be done at 8 days old. So I need you to have a look at some of that as well. Now, there is going to be a piece of extended writing. Male circumcision is a breach of human rights and should not be part of religious tradition. But I don't want you to do that yet, but I'm giving you the title now so that as you're making your notes, you know what you're working towards. Okay, so we need to go right back to the beginning of the PowerPoint. You can replay this video as much as you like, and I want notes in your books or on paper that are as beautiful, if not better, than what you did for me last week. I need the background to the Abrahamic Covenant. I need the Genesis story and your bullet points. You can match your bullet points against mine and green pen yours so that they've got the right detail. I want your answer to this question. What do you think is which do you think is the son that God promised, and why? I want some research on the religious and political history of Judaism, and I want some reference made to the war between Jews and Muslims in Jerusalem now. And I don't just want you to just take it from my PowerPoint. I want you to do your own research. I want to see evidence that you have researched this yourself in your notes. And then I want a part of it to talk about the importance of the Abrahamic Covenant for Judaism today. So why is it important? Why is it important to have it done at 8 days old? Is it a breach of human rights? What do you think? Which countries are banning it and why are they banning it? You need to be looking up the negative points of circumcision as well, because apparently circumcision as a baby can cause PTSD, it can cause shock. In very rare occasions, babies have died. And I want you to have a research on that as well and find out the negative, the downside, what could go wrong with circumcision. Then I want some comment on, is it right for Jews to circumcise their baby boys at 8 days old? I want to know what you think. Research it, find the evidence, make a decision and tell me what you think. And this slide again is just more of that. Okay, so more research on whether or not circumcision is against human rights. And then I will give you the extended piece of writing later. Please don't do it yet, okay? Because I might not give it to you straight after these notes, okay? I might give it to you a little bit later on because we might do just a little bit more research and stuff. I've not decided yet. It depends on how well you do with these notes. So do not do that piece of extended writing that I just showed you a flash of the screen of until I give you more instructions to do it. Okay, so let's take you off screen share and back to my face. So great notes today, please. As good as last week. I've noticed some really, really good work coming from you. You should now all be up to date with your notes. You should have notes on the nature of the Almighty. You should have notes on the Shekinah, the Messiah, and the covenant at Sinai. And then after today, you're going to have notes on the Abrahamic Covenant as well. And we're building a nice little portfolio for your GCSE work for when we get back. Okay, so make sure those notes are beautiful. They are detailed. They show your own research, and do not copy from my PowerPoint. If I see copies from my PowerPoint, I will not be happy. And then I'll be in touch with you later on in the week. So this is Monday's work. It will probably take you into Tuesday. No, not Tuesday. Wednesday, I think, is the our next lesson. Is it Wednesday? Yeah, it is. So this will take you probably Monday and Wednesday. So we'll see how you're getting on, and I will set the assignment to be in on Wednesday night, and then we'll go from there. Have fun with it. Get on that research in. The war is it's so interesting. The rocket launches and the things that are going on today, the two sides today that are arguing, the Israeli army and Hamas, and it's just, yeah, it's fascinating. Get on there, get some research done, enjoy your notes, and I'll see you soon. Cheers then. Bye.